Hello everyone, welcome to the solution video of Bot Games Season 2 Challenge 2, that is quarter close. I hope you had a chance to build a bot and solve this challenge. In this video, I'm going to show you step-by-step approach on how you can build a bot and solve this challenge. We'll also share some tips and tricks on how you can make use of different options available in Automation 360 platform. We'll showcase different approaches on how you can build this bot too. At the end, we'll also discuss about cool ways to win some Bot Games Season 2 swag. Let's get started. The objective of this challenge is to review all the transactions listed on the challenge page and match it with the transactions in the banking application. If a match is found, then you're going to mark the transaction status as verified. If you don't find a matching transaction, then you mark the status as unverified. Couple of tips. Every time you launch the challenge page, the transactions are going to be randomized. So you cannot hard code any of the values in your bot because it's going to change every time. And also, the couple of rules to follow while you build this bot: do not cache any of the transactions from the banking application because that's not how it is done in production, and we want to mimic similar environment while building this bot also. Also, launch the banking application directly from the challenge page and then log into the application and then continue validating the transactions. Let's take a quick look at the challenge page and then we will get started with building the bot. This is the challenge page, and as you can see here, there are 12 transactions in this page for which you have to look for a matching transaction in the banking application. And once you find it, you update the status accordingly based on whether a transaction is matching or not. So let's see how we can build this bot. I have logged into the Automation 360 Enterprise Edition. However, you can also do this on the Community Edition. To start with, I'll first build a skeleton and then start filling in each of these steps. For that, to start with, I'll use step action. I'll use 5 step actions. Let me drag and drop all of these. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. I'll also move to the list view so that it gets easier for me to look at all the steps at once. The first step would be to launch the challenge page. I'll enter the title as launch challenge page. And in second one, I will use launch banking application and login. In the third step, I'll say extract transaction details. In the fourth step, we will submit. And in the fifth step, we will extract the results. Let's start filling one by one now. In the launch challenge page, first, I want to launch the challenge page with a browser. For that, I'll use the browser action. In the browser package, we have an action called open. I'll drag and drop it here. On the right side, I'll select it to launch in a new window, and the browser, I'll select it as Google Chrome. So now we want the link to open the launch page. I'll copy this link to the challenge page. I'll go back here and then paste it here. And then once the page is launched, we want to click on this Arcadia blank login button. So for that, again, I'll use recorder capture action. I'll drag and drop it below the browser open action. I'll click on browser and then refresh the browser's list here so that it will start identifying the quarter close challenge page. And then I'll identify the option that is Arcadia Bank login by selecting the option called capture object and then highlight this button. The action to take on this object is to click on this particular button. So I'll select click and then click on save. So now this will launch the browser, that is Google Chrome, and then it will open with the URL of the challenge page, and it will also click on the Arcadia Bank login button. So next we will launch the banking application manually here. Now the steps are to enter the email address, the password, and click on the login button. So the credentials for this login is available here. So I'll just copy this first and then go back to my bot building, and I'll use 3 recorder capture actions. 2 to enter the user ID password, and third one to click on the login button. First one, I'll click on browser and refresh the page so that it will start identifying the login page. So as you can see, you will there's an Arcadia financial login, and then I'll click on capture object, identify this email address field, and then the action to perform is to set text on this particular object. So I'll select the option set text and I'll enter the username here. Similarly, in the next step, I'll click on browser, I'll refresh and then select the Arcadia financial login, click on capture object and then select the password field. Now let's take the password from the challenge page. I'll copy it from here, and then the action to take on this object is to set text. As you can see, the options are a little different when compared to the previous field. The reason being, the platform is smart enough to identify what is a regular field and what is a credential field. That means the credential, that is password here, has to be stored securely. In a production scenario, I would get the password from the credential vault, but for demo purpose here, I'm just going to select the option as insecure string and type out the password here. Now moving on, let's click on the login button. I'll go to the browser option and select the login page, click on capture object and then identify this login button. The action to take on this object is to click. I'll select this and then click on save. So now you have logged into the banking application and it will take you to the home page. Let's do that manually so that we can get started from there. I'll first copy the user ID here and enter here. Similarly, I'll take the password and then enter the password here and then click on login. So now this is the home page on which we have 2 checking accounts, 1 savings account and a credit card account. As a next step, to extract the details from each of these transactions, we already know that there are 12 transactions in this page. So we will use the loop action to loop through 12 times to get values from each of these transactions. For that, I'll look for loop action. I'll drag and drop a loop within the extract transaction details step, and on the right side, let's configure the properties. We know that we want to loop through 12 times, so I'll update the times as 2 and then assign the current value to a variable. So each time the bot enters the loop, it will maintain a counter. So I'll create a new variable and call this as n counter. N will be a small letter and then counter is a variable name. N counter is the variable name and this is a Hungarian notation. I'll click on create and select. So the first time it enters this loop, it will contain the value 1. And now let's start extracting the fields which we need to compare it with a banking application. For that, I'll use recorder capture. I'll drag and drop it thrice because we are planning to extract information from the three fields. I'll use the first recorder capture action. I'll select the browser and then the quarter close challenge. Click on capture object. Now the first field to identify is the payments account. So I'll highlight this savings account here. Now the action to take on this object is to get the property of that field. So I'll select the option called get property, and let's see what is the property name which contains the text we are looking for. I'll scroll down here. I'll also expand on this to see where is the field which contains the required information for me. Once I scroll down, I can see that it has a property called HTML value that contains the name of the savings along with the account number. So I'll scroll up again, and in the property name, I will select HTML value. I'll scroll down here to identify this particular field name, and then I will store this into a variable. Click on create variable icon, and then I'll give it a name as payment account. Click on create and select. Similarly, we want to select the values from the other two fields. For that, I'll click on recorder capture, select the browser, and that is quarter close challenge. Click on capture object, and this time I'm going to identify this payment type field. Now similar action, that is get property, and in the property name we'll check if it is the same as the previous field, that is the HTML value. Most of the time it will be the same, but we'll just double check. Yes, the HTML value contains the field that is check. So I'll scroll up and select the property name as HTML value, and then store it into a variable. I'll click on create variable again, and then give it a name called as payment type. Click on create and select. Now let's get the amount field. I'll use the next recorder capture action, select the browser and identify the correct browser instance. Click on capture object and identify this particular field. Now the action is the same as the previous two, that is get property. Let's double check the property name again. Scroll down to see where is the value. You can see that again it is in the property called HTML value. So I will scroll up here and then select HTML value. And save this into a new variable called as amount. Click on create and select. So now what we have done is we are getting the values from each of these fields, but the XPath for all these three fields are still hard-coded. But when we navigate it through within the loop, we will have to make it dynamic in such a way that it should be able to refer to all the different transactions in that page. Now let's see how we will do that. I'll select the first recorder capture action and I'll just copy this domex path from here and save it into this notepad. Now to see which of these diffs change from one transaction to another, I'll also click on recapture object and identify the payment account for the second transaction so that we can see what is the value it gets in the domex path. I'll come here and I'll copy the domex path from here. I'll copy the new XPath to this notepad here. Let's compare these two XPaths. As you can see, here is the only change in terms of the value for the div. Otherwise, all the other elements have the same value. So what it means is, like, for the transaction 1, this is going to have the value 1. Similarly, for transaction 2, it will be 2. And similarly, as you keep getting the data from the different transaction, it is just going to increment by 1. So what we will do is, instead of this hard-coded value, let's replace it with the variable we have created earlier, that is nCounter. So that the nCounter variable also has the value 1 when it loops in for the first time, and it keeps incrementing every time it enters the loop. So let's change this value. I'll select this first recorder capture action here. I'll also increase the width a little, and in this div, because we had selected the second transaction, it has picked up the value 2. I'll remove this value 2. I'll click on F2 and then select the variable nCounter and then click on S insert. However, the XPath will only accept strings, and because this is a number, we have to convert it into a string. So I'll place the cursor just before the dollar symbol, place a dot and then type TO, and then now you will see an option that you can convert it into a string. This is called as inline conversion. And now, because we are making this dynamic, we have to ensure there are no other hard-coded values stored in the properties. So let me expand this and we will remove all the other hard-coded values. For example, HTML ID. This is again connected to a specific field. So I'll uncheck this one, scroll down, and the path is also hard-coded. I'll leave this in the sense like I'm going to uncheck this. So now this should be okay. I'll click on save. Now let's minimize this and make sure it has the fields which are all dynamic and no hard-coded values in place. Similarly, we will do this exercise for the other two recorder capture actions as well. I'll come here. This is the div which we need to change. I'll remove this number, click on F2 and select the nCounter and then click on S insert. Now we'll again convert this into string by using inline conversions. I'll expand the object properties and unselect HTML ID as well as the path to make it dynamic based on each transaction. So let's do the same for the last recorder capture action. I'll remove this 1 in the fourth div and then click on F2 and then select the value, that is the variable nCounter. I'll also convert this into a string and expand the object properties and remove the other hard-coded values such as HTML ID and the path. I will click on save. Now we have the three values captured from all the three fields. Now we will have to look up the transactions in the banking application to see if there is a matching transaction. For that, I'm just going to add a new step so that we can create it as a separate section altogether. So I'll just drag and drop this here and call this step as LookUp Transactions. Click on save. The next step is to navigate to the correct account in the banking application that corresponds to the account number listed in each of these transactions. To do this, we will use a dictionary type variable in which we will store the key value pairs. The key will be the text which is displayed on this section, and the value will be the DOMEX path to click on this particular account number. Let's see how we can do this. Navigate to the bot page, and here let's create a dictionary variable. I'll click on plus and then select the type as a dictionary. I'll call it as dict account page, and then we will add 4 key value pairs. So first, let's get the key value pair for the first account. What I'll do is I'll go to this challenge page and get this text here. So I'll copy this savings into a notepad, paste it here. And now in this bank application page, the savings account is in the third spot here. So let's try to get the DOMEX path for this one. To get the DOMEX path for this saving account, I will right click and then click on inspect. It'll take me to this particular object. I'll again right click and then copy the XPath. Let's go back to the notepad and I will paste it here. So this is the XPath which is required for the bot to identify which account it has to select. So similarly, we have to get the text for all the three accounts. I've already typed it out for you so that we don't have to wait and when I capture the value for all these four accounts. So let me just show you the values which I have already copied over. So this is the text and then this is the XPath navigation. So let's copy this one by one and start adding it into the key value pairs. Go here, I'll add this key and then this is the value. I'll do the same for the other three pairs. Copy this checking and add it here. I'll add the third one now. Now on to the fourth one. So now we have our dictionary variable ready. Now we have to click on the specific account page based on the account number which is listed in the challenge page. For that, I'll use a recorder capture action. Drag and drop it here. On the right side, I'll select the browser and then identify the tab. I'll refresh because I don't see the home page of the Arcadia Bank application. So now we should see this home page listed here. I'll click on capture object and then I will identify this first field now. Also, because this is going to run in a loop and every time we may be in a specific account page which will have a different title. As you can see here, currently I'm on the home page, so I have this account overview title. However, the title for this page will change when I'm in a different account page. So to make it general, I'll remove this specific text called account overview and make it as an asterisk. And then what is the action I want to take on this object? I want to click on this particular object. Let's look at the DOMEX path for this. Here is the DOMEX path which is hard-coded. Instead of this, I'm going to remove this and then select the dictionary variable we have created. I'll click on F2 and then select the dict account page. I will not enter the key for now. I'll explain why. I'll just click on S insert and now you can see that it has picked up the blank key. So I'll just remove this blank double quotes and again click on F2 and now I'm going to select the variable S payment account which will have the value, that is the text which we need to click on the specific account number. I'll click on yes insert and because now we have made it dynamic, let's look at what are the hard-coded values and then we will remove them. We don't need this HTML inner text which is hard-coded. Instead, what we need is the variable which will contain this text. So I'm going to remove this and click on F2 and then select the F payment account. Click on yes insert. We also don't need this HTML href because it may be referring to a specific account. I'll remove this one and also we don't need the path. And I'll just double check this frame src is also not required. So scroll up and we will collapse this to see what are the different fields it has picked up. As you can see, we have this domex path and the HTML inner text. So this is good to identify the specific account page. Click on Save. The next step is to search for the matching transaction. For that, we want to enter the text into the search field. I'll use the recorder capture action again. And then select the browser, that is the Arcadia Financial page with an asterisk. Let's go back to this banking application and let's select one of the pages. For example, what is the first transaction looking at? The savings account. So let's select the same one here. I will close this DevTools for now, and we have to enter the amount here. When I enter the amount here, it may have multiple transactions reflecting the same value. So to avoid that, what we will do is we will use the combination of the payment type and the value. So let's say, for example, for this transaction, I will copy this check and I will paste it here and then space, and then again I'll come here and take the amount and go back here and look for this particular value. So now most of the times we will be able to nail down to the single transaction which has a combination of the payment type and the value. So let's see how we will do this in the bot. In the recorder capture action, I'll click on capture object. I will identify this search field. And in the search field, the action we want to take is set the text. We will select the option called set text. And what is the value we want to add? That is the payment type and the amount. So I'll click on F2. I'll select the payment type variable. Click on insert, leave a space and again F2, and then select the amount. Click on yes, insert. So this way we have an opportunity to enter both the values so that we'll be able to identify the exact transaction here. Click on save. We also want to make sure once the bot identifies the selected account, it needs some page for that to load all the transactions in that page. For that, let's add a small delay between these two steps. I'll drag and drop this delay between these two steps and I'll just give it a 50 millisecond time for all the transactions to load. I'll click on save. Now, once we have the transactions listed, we will have to capture this entire table and then we have to read through all of the rows to see if there is a matching transaction. For that, I will use the recorder capture action again. Drag and drop this here. On the right side, select the browser as Arcadia Financial with an asterisk. Click on capture object. So now let's select this entire table. Now the action to take on object is get table, so that it will read all the values in the form of the table and it will save it into a variable. For that, let's create a data table variable. I'll call this as DT results. Click on create and select. Now we have to loop through each of the rows just in case if there are more than one row and then identify if there is a matching transaction. For that, we'll just first click on save and then add a loop here. Drag and drop it below the recorder capture. And here in this case, we want to loop through each of the row in the table. And let's select the table variable, that is DT results. And we will store the current row to a variable. I'll call this as R current row. Click on create and select. I'll click on save. Now let's see the column values here. So this is the first column, that is index 0. This is index 1, that is column 2. Column 3 is index 2, index 3, index 4 and index 5. So let's try to compare these values, that is the payment type and the amount, that is index 2 and index 5. To do that, I'll use an if action. I'll type if here and look for this if statement. I'll drag and drop it within the loop, and then I'll say we are comparing a string here. I'll select the string action. The source value is going to be the record variable with a index 2. I'll select this r current row and index. I'll enter it as 2. Insert. And now we want to compare if this is matching with the account type we have captured from the challenge page. I'll click on F2 and select the payment type. Along with this, we also want to match one more condition, that is the amount. Before we add that another condition, I'm just going to remove this match case and then click on add condition. Again, I'll choose a string comparison and the source value will be the record variable with the index 5 as discussed earlier. And then I'm going to compare it to the amount field which we have captured from the challenge page. I'll select S amount and then click on yes, insert. I'll also remove here as the match case. So now we have two conditions, one to check the payment type and the second condition to check the amount value. If both of these are true, we will save the response into a variable. Now we are going to use a Boolean variable because all we want to store is whether it's true or false. For that, I'll look for a Boolean assigned transaction. I'll drag and drop this assign here. And then I'll store a value true into a Boolean variable. Let's create a Boolean variable now. I'll call this as B verified transaction. I'll leave the default value as false, and if the condition matches, it will be updated with the value true. I'll click on create and select. Now we are assigning the value true to the variable called B verified transaction. And in case if this condition is not met, then we want to update the Boolean value with a value false. So let's add a else condition. I'll drag and drop the else here. Just have to drag and drop it once more. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to place it exactly here. I will also copy this Boolean assign action and paste it below the else condition. And here I'm just going to update the value as false. I'll click on save. So now, based on the Boolean value condition, I would want to update the transaction status as verified if it is true and not verified if it is false. For that, I will use an if condition again. I'll drag and drop it here. Make sure you drop it at the exact alignment so that it doesn't get into the previous if loop we are already trying to work on. So in this, now the condition is going to be a Boolean condition. We want to check if the variable we have created earlier, that is the B verified transaction, is equals to true, then we want to update the transaction status as verified. For that, I'll use a recorder capture action. Drag and drop it here. I'll select the browser and identify the challenge page. Click on capture object, and now I'll select this particular field, that is transaction status. And the action to take is we want to select the value by text. So I'll assign this value as verified. Also, we have to note that the properties for this particular field is going to be hard-coded for now, and we want to ensure we make it dynamic to refer to the transaction status of all the transactions. For that, I'm going to update this div here. I'll just remove the div value, click on F2 and add the n counter variable the way we did it earlier also. So I'm also going to convert it into string. And let's also remove other properties which are kind of hard-coded. That is, HTML ID is not required. And then the path is not required. I will click on save. Let's add a else condition just below this recorder capture. I'm going to drag and drop this here. And then the recorder capture, I'm just going to copy this from here and I'll paste it below the if else condition. The only change we have to make is in the assign value, we will select unverified in this case. All the other values will remain the same. I'll click on save. Also, just wanted to tell you about one more point which I had missed earlier. For example, in this for each row, like where we checked for two string conditions, if the transaction is matching in the first row itself, we don't need the bot to loop through all the other rows. For that, what we will do is we'll just add a break condition here so that it will break out of the loop just in case if it finds the transaction in the first row. So I'm going to just drag and drop it here. We don't need this in the else condition because it will go to the else condition only when there are no transactions. I'll click on save. Now this should take care of verifying all the transactions between the challenge page and the banking application. The next step is to just click on the submit button. For that, I'll use a recorder capture and drag and drop it below the submit status. I'll select the browser and choose the correct browser page. Click on capture object. I will scroll down to the bottom of the page and then identify the submit button. The action to take on this object is click. Then I'll click on save. With this, we are pretty much covered on building the bot itself to solve the challenge. Let's run this bot to see how it goes through, and in case of any errors, we will look at how to fix them. So before I run the bot, I'm just going to close this application as the bot is anyway going to create the new instance of the browser. Let's click on run and see how this goes through. I'll click on run. It may take a few seconds because it's trying to download the entire bot from the control room in the cloud to the local machine, and after that it is going to start executing the bot. We will give it a few seconds and then we should see that the bot is able to launch the challenge page. And now it is also going to log into the banking application. So it's checking through different transactions. Let's see if it goes through. Now the bot has completed execution. However, we have got only 3 out of 12 correct. We will see what went wrong. Just click on OK for now. I checked the bot to see what was the problem, because of which it could only validate 3 transactions correctly. So the issue lies with the if construct and the way it is used when comparison to the loop. As you can see here, whenever it breaks out of this loop, it is also breaking out of this if condition. So the better way to look at it is using the flow view. So let me show you here. Whenever the Boolean value is true, it is breaking out of the loop, and because of which this if condition is not getting executed. So the only change we have to make is bring this out of the loop, so that now even if this loop is broken, this steps will still execute. You can just double check this, like if I just collapse this one, you can still see this steps get executed. So this was the only small fix which was required. I'll click on save, and now let's run the bot again to see if we can get the correct result. I'll close the application and then click on run. We'll give it a few seconds for the bot to get deployed to the local system, and it should start executing all the steps as designed. As you can see the result, the bot was able to review all the transactions and accordingly update the status as verified or not based on if it found a matching transaction. So now the last step is to just take the information from this model and store it into a CSV file. Let's see how we can do that. I'll move back to the list view and then scroll down. So now in the last step, extract results. So let's use the recorder capture to capture the different elements on the pop-up model. I'll use 4 recorder capture actions. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now let's start working one by one. I'll select the first one. I'll click on the browser and select the browser tab, that is quarter close challenge. Click on capture object, and the first I will capture this success message which says awesome quarter close challenge complete. And the action to take on the object is to get the property. We want to get the text. Now let's see which property has that exact text. I will scroll down here and also expand this properties. We can see that inner HTML has this text. We'll also double check in case if any other field has. Also the HTML inner text also has this particular required text. We will use this HTML inner text property. I'll select HTML inner text. And this property, we will save it into a new variable. I'll click on create variable, and then I'll create a new variable called yes message. Click on create and select. Now we'll do the same for all other 3 fields. Select the recorder capture, select the browser, and then identify the correct page. Click on capture object. Now we will collect the time from here. Action to take is get property, and we will select the property name as HTML inner text, and then we will save it into a new variable called time. Click on create and select. Let's do this for 2 more steps. Select the browser, identify the correct browser instance, click on capture object. This time we will capture the accuracy. Action to take on the object is get property, and then the HTML inner text. We will save this into a new variable called accuracy. Just correct the spelling here. For accuracy, click on create and select. And the last one is to capture the GUID. Select the browser, then click on capture object, and then get this particular GUID here. Action is to get property and then the HTML inner text. I'll click on create a variable to create a new variable name called GUID, and I'll click on create and select. Sometimes the GUID takes a second or more to be generated. Just to make sure it is getting generated on time, we'll add a static delay of 2 seconds so that we won't miss out on capturing the GUID. I'll just drag and drop it above the recorder capture, and then I'll do 2 seconds. Anyways, the model pop-up is already up, so that means like this timing is not going to increase the time taken by the bot to complete the challenge. I'll click on save. And then we will log all this information into a CSV file. For that, I'll use the action called log to file. Drag and drop it at the end, and then file path. I'll select a generic path. In this case, I'm going to give it as C drive temp, and I already have a file created, so I'll just take the name from there. From here, I'll copy the full name and then paste it into this field here. Now let's add all the 4 fields which we have just captured. Click on F2. The first one is the success message. The variable name is S message. Add a comma, and then let's get the timing. And next, let's get the accuracy. Click on yes, insert, comma, and then click on F2, and now select the GUID. Click on yes, insert. Now we will have all these fields entered into the CSV file. Let's run the bot now and see the results in the CSV file. We will give it a few seconds for the bot to start the deployment, and it will start validating all the 12 transactions in the challenge page. Now the bot execution is completed. Let's go take a look at the CSV file. I'll open this CSV file. We can see that it has captured all the elements from the model pop-up. However, in the GUID, we can see that there is a word called verified along with the space is added. So let's just try to remove this particular word, and then we'll run it for the last time and then verify the results. I'll go back to my bot, and then I'll use the action called replace. In the string operations, I'll use this string action. The source string is the GUID, and then I'll remove the word verified along with the space, and then I'm going to put the output back to the GUID itself, and then click on save. I'll close the application and then run it for the last time here. And once the bot completes the execution, we will take a look at the results. The bot has completed the execution. We'll go check the CSV file. Let's expand all the fields, and now you will notice that the word verified along with the space is removed from the GUID. So this is how we solve this challenge and also get the results from the model back to the CSV file. This is one of the approach you can take to solve this challenge. However, there are multiple ways in which you can solve this. The alternate options are like you can use browser run JavaScript, and then you can write your custom JavaScript to execute all these steps. Also, there is a special package called Web Automation Package on the bot store, which is very popular, and when you use that package, the bot can be executed at a much faster pace. Now you have learned how to build a bot and solve this challenge. The next step is to get eligible to receive some awesome board games swag. For that, there are 3 steps. If you have not yet registered for the Board Game Season 2, please do register on the developer portal. The URL is developer.automationanywhere.com/botgames. And then take a screenshot of the success model and then share it on the social media, whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter, along with the hashtag BotGames. Our team, both developer evangelist teams and also the social team, is continuously looking out for interesting posts, interesting insights about how you have solved for this, and you could be eligible to win some awesome Board Games Season 2 swag. Don't forget to tag 3 of your developers and challenge them to solve it. The main reason to ask for this is to create a community engagement so that we all learn from each other, and then we can also showcase our strength in terms of using different features of the platform and build the best possible bot to solve any use case. I hope this was useful. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I am Arjun, and go be great.